If you're like me, you're endlessly trying to achieve your best skin possible. The internet is a minefield of tips, tricks, homemade remedies, conflicting information and recommendations that can confuse even the most clued up skincare aficionados. Now, some of these myths and age-old traditions have been passed down through generations, whilst others have arisen in more recent times. Our obsession with skin has led to becoming more critical of people with particular skin conditions too. Whatever their origins, general practitioner Dr. Sindisiwe van Zyl and multifaceted artist Ody Flames joins us in the loft this afternoon for another Ingram skin session to discuss how these myths can derail our best intentions when it comes to taking care of our skin. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, firstly, Dr. Cindy, what are some of the worst skincare myths that you've encountered?
In my line of work, I see a lot of children with ringworm, and there's so many myths around the treatment of ringworm. So people, especially on the head, people say that you must put black polish on it, you must put battery acid on it. There's all these myths around it. And the treatment for ringworm is a fungus, right? And you need to get tablets from a medical doctor. And you take these tablets for a minimum of 3 months, and the ringworm on your scalp should go away. You also need to cut your hair and make sure that you keep your hair cut during the duration of treatment. But black polish, battery acid and all those things, no. That is not how we treat ringworm on the scalp.
Now, Ody, with the internet full of tips and tricks, new fads and trends, how can we discern between the good and the bad?
I think it's pretty easy, hey? I mean, as a person, when you're reading through stuff, sometimes you can tell, good time, man. This is a bit weird to even think that there's someone out there that can believe such a thing. I'm going to make an example with me. You read or hear so many things about albinism and people living with albinism. Some say when we die, we disappear. Others even treat our condition as if it's a disease or anything. So sometimes when you're reading through something, just think about it. And you can tell, man, when something is just off or when something is right. And if you're not sure, you can always ask someone else.
Absolutely. And Dr. Cindy, for yourself, as you just scroll through the internet, how can one tell what's good, what we should take in, and what we should just take away?
You know what's so cool about the internet now is that people like me, medical doctors or nurse clinicians, are all over the internet. So it's a matter of just Googling the right thing and then making sure that when you click on a link, you click on a reputable link. I know that WebMD is one of the most trusted sites when it comes to medical knowledge. You can follow doctors on Twitter, you can follow doctors on Facebook, but there's no excuse in this day and age, certainly not in 2020, to be looking up the wrong information. There's too many doctors and nurses on Twitter and social media for that to be happening. So always make sure it's someone reputable, someone trustworthy. And as Ody says, if it sounds too good to be true or it sounds shady, then of course it's too good to be true or it's shady.
Absolutely, it probably is. Now, Ody, going back to some of those myths around albinism that you would love to debunk, how has it personally affected you?
Okay, so there's so many myths, like I said before. People say some of the most weirdest awkward things. Like I said, people say when we die, we would disappear. Weird. I remember when I was growing up, right? I was very little. I think I was like about 11 or 12, and my mom had sent me to a shop to get her some stuff. So on my way there, I'm walking there, and there were two men that were walking past me, right? And then one guy said to the other, he has to spit on the floor so that he doesn't end up looking like me, having my skin condition or having children that look like me. And at the time, because I was very young, it was very confusing. And they actually did spit on the floor as they walked past me. And obviously I was very touched. And because I was still young and I was still like in the beginning stages of even understanding my condition and why I look so different from others. And I came across adults that actually believes such things and do such things. It was very, very, very weird. But I think because at home, my parents always had like an open door for me to ask anything if I didn't understand anything, or if I was feeling a certain way, or if I went out there and someone did something, I could always go back home and be like, Mom, Dad, this and this and this happened, and they'd explain it to me, and I'd be okay.
And then, Ody, what does wearing your skin bravely mean to you?
wearing my skin bravely, to me, it means being proud of my skin, knowing who I am, knowing exactly who I am, and also understanding that how I see myself will be how the world sees me. So I should always be confident in myself. If there's anything that I don't like about myself and I can change, I should if I want to. But if there's anything that I don't like about myself and I can't change, I should learn to love it, and also nourishing my skin, because it's the only skin that I'll ever have. So I take care of it as much as I can, and the only way that I know how to.
Now, Dr. Cindy, how can these stereotypes around skin conditions affect one's mental health, and what role does this play in their life going forward?
It's very challenging. I mean, if you look at people living with albinism, over and above always being stared at, they have to live with the rumors and the misinformation, like the fact that albinism is associated with witchcraft, and the fact that people say that when they die they disappear. Those things are not true. So there's pressure on the family that has a child or children living with albinism. There's pressure on the child or children themselves, or the people themselves. And it's up to us to make sure that we're always sharing the correct information. I love what Ody said about how this is her skin and she's going to live in her skin as best as she can. It's up to us, when we get the correct information, to share it with everybody else. I think albinism is one of the most misunderstood skin conditions. It's an inherited disorder. So you have two parents, both with a recessive gene. They come together, have a baby, and then this baby happens to not have the gene that makes sure that melanin is produced. Okay, so it's hard for the parents because there's no way of knowing during pregnancy that the baby's going to come out with albinism. And so it's almost always a surprise when they find out when the baby's born. But if they look back in their history, they'll find that there is a family member somewhere along the line who is living with albinism, or had, or there was a family member with albinism. So they can kind of say, oh, okay, now we see where this comes from. Sunscreen is definitely something that can't be overlooked. Sunscreen is expensive. So I'm hoping that, as time goes on, more and more pharmaceutical companies will make it more affordable, especially for people living with albinism. It's a non-negotiable. They have to wear sunscreen all the time to protect their skin from the sun.
Now, ladies, breaking the stigma around these myths is a social responsibility. So what action needs to be taken to educate others and dispel myths and stereotypes? Ody?
I think education. Ask if you're not sure about anything. You can ask professionals. You can even ask me, a person living with albinism, because obviously I have educated myself so that I can understand myself better. So you just ask, and don't take everything that you hear out there. Don't assume everything that you hear out there is correct. And also, just get information. Information is always out there. The internet, social media, everywhere. Yeah.
And lastly, from you, Dr. Cindy.
I'll agree with Ody. Education is everything. That's how we've been able to break the stigma around other conditions as well. So it's important for us to stay informed, to ask when we don't know, and not to make assumptions about anything, because information is always available. And this is why I love what Ingram is doing with regards to educating us about skin conditions.
Yeah. General practitioner Dr. Cindy, and of course a multifaceted artist, that is Ody Flames, sharing of course what bravery in their skin means to them. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Now, as we've seen, there are many skin myths out there, and with education, we can differentiate between which ones are helpful and harmful. Remember, you only have one skin, so nourish it and wear it bravely.
You only have one skin. Nourish it and wear it bravely.